Imagine two neighbors living on the exact same street. Both are 75 years old, both eat a relatively healthy diet, and both are deeply concerned about protecting their memory as they age. The first neighbor is terrified of cognitive decline, so every single morning without fail, they lace up their heavily cushioned athletic shoes, walk down to the basement, step onto an expensive treadmill, and walk at a brisk pace for exactly 45 minutes while staring straight ahead at a morning news broadcast. The second neighbor rarely exercises in a formal sense. Instead, they spend their mornings slowly meandering through a nearby wooded park, stopping to examine the uneven roots on the trail, constantly scanning the branches for birds, and carefully navigating the unpredictable rocky dirt path. If you asked any modern physician which of these two seniors is doing more to protect their brain from Alzheimer's disease, they would almost certainly point to the neighbor sweating on the treadmill, but they would be entirely, catastrophically wrong. The neighbor on the treadmill is actively, unknowingly participating in a biological illusion. They are moving their legs, their heart rate is elevated, and they are burning calories, but because of a specific mechanical mistake in how they are moving, they are actually starving their brain's memory centers and actively accelerating the exact cognitive decline they are trying so desperately to outrun. For decades, the medical establishment has handed down a very simple, almost patronizing directive to the aging population: just keep moving. When you express concern to your doctor about a fading memory or the terrifying sensation of brain fog, they pat you on the shoulder and tell you to go for a walk. They treat walking as if it is a generic, one-size-fits-all prescription, no different than swallowing a daily vitamin. Because of this massive oversimplification, millions of seniors carry an enormous burden of guilt when their memory continues to slip despite their diligent daily walks around the neighborhood cul-de-sac or their local shopping mall. You are doing exactly what you were told to do. You are putting in the miles. You are wearing the expensive doctor-recommended orthopedic shoes. But the global neurological community is now uncovering a breathtaking reality. Your brain does not simply care that your legs are moving. Your brain is a highly complex, evolutionary supercomputer, and it cares deeply, fundamentally, about the environmental context and the specific mechanical forces generated by every single step you take. The tragic mistake that is destroying the cognitive health of millions of seniors is that we have industrialized, sanitized, and completely sterilized the act of walking, stripping it of the critical biological triggers that actually signal the brain to stay young. To completely revolutionize your understanding of physical movement and halt the destruction of your memory, we must look backward through hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution. We must ask a fundamental question that modern medicine completely forgot to ask. Why did the human brain evolve to be so massive and so complex in the first place? Anthropologists and evolutionary neuroscientists have discovered that the explosive growth of the human brain was not driven by the need to solve complex math equations or write poetry. The human brain evolved its immense processing power for one primary, absolute purpose: to navigate complex, unpredictable physical environments, while simultaneously hunting for food and avoiding predators. In the ancestral world, walking was never a mindless, repetitive exercise. It was a high-stakes, deeply engaging cognitive puzzle. When an ancient human walked through a dense forest, their brain was operating at absolute maximum capacity. Their eyes were constantly darting, scanning the horizon for danger. Their inner ear was frantically calculating balance as their feet navigated treacherous, uneven terrain. Most importantly, a tiny seahorse-shaped organ deep inside the center of their brain, the hippocampus, was furiously drawing a three-dimensional map of their surroundings so they could find their way back home. The hippocampus is the grand central station of your memory. It is the exact part of the brain that Alzheimer's disease attacks and destroys first. But what the medical system failed to tell you is that the primary biological job of the hippocampus is not to remember your grocery list. Its primary job is spatial navigation. It is the master cartographer of your skull. This brings us to the devastating silent neurological crisis occurring on treadmills, paved running tracks, and flat, predictable mall concourses all across the world. When you step onto a motorized treadmill and stare at a television screen, or when you walk the exact same perfectly flat paved route around your neighborhood every single day, you are completely eliminating the cognitive puzzle of navigation. You are engaging in a highly unnatural, completely sanitized form of movement. Your legs are moving backward beneath you, but your visual field is completely static. The walls of your basement are not moving. The television screen is not moving. This creates a massive, terrifying sensory conflict inside your brain. Your muscles are sending electrical signals up to your brain saying, "We are moving forward through space," but your eyes are sending signals saying, "We are completely stationary." When the hippocampus, the master cartographer, receives these conflicting signals, it becomes deeply confused. Because there is no new terrain to map, no unpredictable obstacles to navigate, and no changing visual landscape, the brain decides that the massive energy required to run the hippocampus is being wasted. The brain operates on a ruthless principle of biological efficiency. If a highly expensive piece of machinery is not being used, the body shuts it down. When you walk mindlessly on a flat surface or a treadmill, you are literally putting your hippocampus to sleep. You are starving the memory center of its required electrical stimulation. Over years and decades of this sanitized walking, the unused memory centers physically shrink, the neurons wither, and the terrifying symptoms of cognitive decline begin to manifest, not from a lack of exercise, but from a complete and total lack of spatial complexity. But the starvation of the hippocampus through a lack of visual mapping is only the first half of this devastating walking mistake. The second, and perhaps even more destructive element, involves a massive mechanical failure occurring at the absolute lowest point of your body, right inside your shoes. To understand this failure, we must completely rethink the physics of human blood circulation. You have been taught that your heart is the sole engine responsible for pumping blood throughout your entire body. While the heart is a magnificent pump, it faces a colossal, almost impossible physics problem. Once the heart pumps oxygen-rich blood all the way down into your feet, that blood must somehow fight against the massive downward pull of gravity to climb all the way back up your legs, through your torso, and up into your brain. The heart alone simply does not have the pressure required to pull heavy fluids straight up against gravity. Therefore, human biology evolved a brilliant, secondary, built-in pumping system located entirely inside the soles of your feet. Deep inside the flesh of your foot, right beneath your arch and your heel, lies a massive, dense network of delicate veins known as the plantar venous plexus. You can think of this network of veins exactly like a thick, fluid-filled sponge. When you walk barefoot, or in very minimal footwear, the natural, firm impact of your foot striking the solid earth physically squishes this sponge. This firm, mechanical compression acts as a massive, high-pressure hydraulic pump. Every single time your heel strikes the ground, the plantar venous plexus violently ejects a massive, forceful column of blood straight up your leg, propelling it directly against gravity. This upward surge of blood is so powerful that it bypasses the heart entirely, creating a secondary pressure wave that shoots fresh, highly oxygenated blood straight up the carotid arteries and forcefully washes over your brain cells. This mechanical phenomenon is known as the footward hemodynamic pump. For millions of years, the human brain relied on the rhythmic, percussive impact of the foot striking the earth to guarantee a massive, high-pressure delivery of oxygen and nutrients. Your brain literally depends on the physical shock of your footstep to feed itself. But look at the tragic, heavily marketed reality of modern footwear, specifically footwear targeted at the senior population. If you walk into any orthopedic shoe store today, you are immediately pushed toward massive, ultra-thick, heavily cushioned stability shoes. You are told that because your joints are aging, you must walk on 2 inches of synthetic memory foam to protect your knees and your spine. You have been sold a lie that impact is the enemy of the aging body. When you wrap your foot in 2 inches of highly engineered shock-absorbing foam, you are not just protecting your joints, you are completely castrating the footward hemodynamic pump. The soft, pillowy foam absorbs 100% of the ground reaction force. The mechanical shock never reaches the sole of your foot. The venous sponge is never firmly compressed. The secondary heart in your foot is entirely silenced. As a result, when you walk in these heavily cushioned shoes, the massive upward surge of blood never occurs. You are elevating your heart rate. You are demanding more oxygen, but the delivery system to your brain has been physically disabled by your footwear. You are inadvertently trapping the blood in your lower extremities, leaving your most precious, highly metabolic brain cells gasping and starving for oxygen while you walk. It is the biological equivalent of trying to water a thirsty garden while standing firmly on the garden hose. And this localized starvation is further compounded by a deeply dangerous postural habit that almost every single senior adopts when walking outdoors. As we age, our balance systems naturally begin to decline, our inner ear becomes less sensitive, and our fear of falling drastically increases. This fear is entirely valid, as a broken hip can be a devastating, life-altering event. But to compensate for this fear, aging adults make a catastrophic adjustment to their walking posture. Instead of standing tall and looking out at the horizon, they drop their chin, round their shoulders, and stare intensely, directly at the pavement 3 feet in front of their toes, constantly searching for cracks or uneven surfaces to avoid. This forward head posture is a neurological nightmare. The human head is incredibly heavy, weighing roughly 10 to 12 pounds. When it is perfectly balanced on top of a straight spine, the weight is distributed effortlessly. But the moment you drop your chin and stare at the ground, you are essentially hanging a 12-pound bowling ball off the front of your cervical spine. This extreme, unnatural angle creates immense, crushing mechanical tension on the back of your neck. Running directly up through the delicate bones of your cervical spine are two massive vital blood vessels called the vertebral arteries. These arteries are responsible for supplying blood directly to the back of your brain, specifically the cerebellum, which controls your balance, and the occipital lobe, which processes your vision. When you walk for 45 minutes with your head hung forward, staring at the ground, the crushing tension in your neck muscles physically pinches and constricts these vertebral arteries. You are actively strangling the blood supply to the exact parts of your brain that you desperately need to keep you balanced and upright. At the exact moment your brain requires maximum oxygen to coordinate your walking, your posture is cutting off the supply line. This is why so many seniors experience a terrifying sense of dizziness, lightheadedness, or extreme brain fog immediately after a long walk. It is not exhaustion. It is acute, posture-induced cerebral starvation. We have unmasked the profound, hidden mistakes destroying the cognitive value of your daily walk. We understand the tragic sensory deprivation of the treadmill, the catastrophic disabling of the foot pump by ultra-thick shoes, and the oxygen-strangling reality of the forward head posture. You are now equipped with the absolute, undeniable biological truth that your brain requires environmental complexity, physical impact, and structural alignment to survive. The beautiful, empowering reality of this knowledge is that you do not need to buy a new piece of equipment, and you do not need to adopt an exhausting, high-intensity exercise routine to fix this. You simply need to fundamentally change the mechanics of how you move through the world. You must upgrade your daily routine into a highly targeted, neurologically demanding protocol known as dual-task ambulation. The very first, non-negotiable step in this cognitive rescue mission is to completely abandon the treadmill and the perfectly flat, predictable walking tracks. You must force your hippocampus to wake up and begin mapping your environment again. To do this, you must introduce the vital element of the unknown. Seek out environments that are inherently slightly unpredictable. A packed dirt trail winding through a local nature reserve, a grassy park with subtle rolling hills, or even a neighborhood route that you have never walked before. The simple act of navigating a dirt path requires your brain to constantly calculate the placement of your foot, adjusting for tiny rocks, exposed roots, and the subtle variations in the incline of the earth. Every single tiny adjustment your ankle makes sends a massive, explosive electrical signal of spatial awareness directly into your memory centers. The brain is forced to stay highly engaged, laying down fresh, robust neural pathways just to keep you from stumbling. You are commanding the hippocampus to resume its evolutionary duty. To safely execute this unpredictable walking without succumbing to the fear of falling, we must immediately correct the destructive ground-staring posture. You must actively practice a technique known as panoramic ambulation. This means training your visual system to look upward and outward. Instead of staring at the crack in the sidewalk 3 feet ahead of you, lift your chin, align your ears directly over your shoulders, and cast your gaze out to the horizon, roughly 20 to 30 feet in front of you. When you utilize panoramic vision, a miraculous biological failsafe occurs. Your peripheral vision is incredibly highly evolved. It is more than capable of detecting obstacles on the ground, without you having to stare directly at them. By lifting your head, you completely unkink the heavy garden hose of your neck. You instantly release the crushing mechanical pressure on your vertebral arteries, allowing a massive, unrestricted flood of highly oxygenated blood to rush into the back of your brain. Suddenly, the dizziness fades, your natural balance system comes back online, and you feel a profound sense of mental clarity while you move. But what if you live in an environment where unpredictable, natural terrain is simply unavailable? What if you are confined to walking in a perfectly safe, flat environment due to severe physical limitations or weather conditions? We can artificially create the exact same powerful cognitive demand on your hippocampus by intentionally introducing a second competing task while you walk. This is the science of cognitive motor interference, and it is the single most powerful brain exercise ever discovered. When you walk, your brain is utilizing motor pathways. If you simultaneously force your brain to perform a complex mental task, you are forcing the brain to rapidly switch electrical signals between the motor cortex and the prefrontal cortex. This high-speed electrical switching acts like massive biological weightlifting for your neurons. While you are walking your familiar route, completely out loud, begin counting backward from 100 by 7s. 193, 86, 79. Or, try to name a different animal for every single letter of the alphabet as you take each step. These tasks sound deceptively simple, but when combined with the physical act of walking, they force your brain to work incredibly hard. You will actually feel yourself slowing down. You might even stumble over your words. That frustration, that feeling of mental friction, is the exact physical sensation of your brain forging new, highly resilient neural connections. You are actively building an impenetrable cognitive reserve that will protect your memory for decades. Finally, we must resurrect the vital, high-pressure hemodynamic pump resting dormant inside the soles of your feet. We must re-establish the critical, percussive impact that shoots blood up into your skull. Now, I understand completely that throwing away your highly cushioned orthopedic shoes and walking barefoot on concrete is an absolutely terrifying and physically dangerous proposition, especially if you suffer from the agonizing burning pain of diabetic neuropathy or severe plantar fasciitis. I am absolutely not suggesting that you subject your aging joints to unprotected, brutal impact on hard surfaces. The goal is to maximize sensory input while maintaining profound safety. We must implement a deeply protective, highly modified transition. Begin inside the absolute safety of your own home, on a soft, carpeted surface. For just 10 minutes a day, take off your heavy, thick-soled shoes and your socks. Walk back and forth across your living room entirely barefoot. Without the sensory deprivation chamber of the shoe, the thousands of highly sensitive nerve endings on the bottom of your feet are suddenly exposed to the texture of the carpet. The gentle, natural impact of your heel striking the floor without foam interference immediately compresses the venous plexus. You will physically feel a rush of warmth traveling up your calves as the dormant blood pump finally wakes up and propels fluid toward your brain. When you are ready to walk outdoors, you must seek out a compromise in your footwear. Transition away from the massive 2-inch thick memory foam platforms that look like spaceships and look for a shoe with a significantly thinner, firmer sole, often marketed as a minimalist or barefoot-style walking shoe. These shoes still provide a crucial layer of rubber protection against glass and sharp rocks, and they offer enough structure to protect your joints, but the sole is firm enough to allow the ground reaction force to actually reach your foot. By simply thinning the barrier between your body and the earth, you are turning the secondary heart back on, ensuring that every single step you take delivers a massive rhythmic pulse of life-giving oxygen directly into your starving memory centers. We have entirely dismantled the generic, dangerously oversimplified advice to simply go for a walk. You now possess a masterful understanding of the complex evolutionary mechanics required to keep your brain vibrant and youthful. You understand the absolute necessity of forcing your hippocampus to map unpredictable terrain. You know the exact posture required to unkink the vital arteries in your neck. And you possess the behavioral tools to artificially increase your cognitive load through counting and panoramic scanning. Most importantly, you understand the hidden miraculous blood pump located in the soles of your feet, and exactly how to utilize thinner, firmer footwear to reactivate it safely. You have the exact comprehensive blueprint to transform a mindless daily chore into a profound, highly aggressive neurological rescue mission. However, everything we have discussed today about physically pumping fresh, highly oxygenated blood up into your brain relies entirely on a massive, deeply hidden assumption about the physical quality of your blood itself. Even if you walk with perfect posture, navigate complex terrain, and activate the foot pump, it is all entirely useless if your blood has become so incredibly thick, sticky, and dehydrated that it physically cannot squeeze through the microscopic capillaries inside your hippocampus. And the terrifying reality is that a specific, highly toxic heavy metal hiding inside the very pipes of your kitchen sink is actively coagulating your blood right now, turning it into a thick sludge that suffocates your memory. If you want to discover exactly what this hidden tapwater neurotoxin is, and the incredibly simple 1-minute morning ritual to instantly dissolve it and thin your blood back to a youthful, rushing river, you need to click the video on your screen right now, and I will show you exactly how to unclog your entire vascular system.